Coming to you from sunny California and the Great White North. Get ready. We are breaking down the obstacles on the Armchair Ninja Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Armchair Ninja Podcast. It is Friday, June 2nd, 2017. My name is Rich, and joining me to cover the hot mess that is Team Ninja Warrior this week is Bijan. How you making out?
I'm good, man. What happened today? Oh boy, that was a very tough episode to watch, I must say.
Yeah, I wanted to stop watching it halfway through, and even when Team Ronin was squeaking their way through to the finals, who I was actually hoping it was my second pick to make it through. I had no problem with them making it. How they were getting through was not making it any better. It was just awful. The whole episode was a train wreck. I didn't want to finish watching it.
Well, I'm not as negative as Rich, or as you, Rich, but I felt like the writing was on the wall as soon as we saw the Ninja Britons, not doing well. I thought this episode was pretty obvious where it was going to go. I felt like Ronin really was going to fly by everybody. I mean, Ronin was my pick to win this episode, and if everybody remembers, they were originally my pick to win the entire show in the first season. To say I'm high up on Team Ronin is an understatement. I really think they can win the entire series and be the champions. But the Ninja Britons, I expected at least to make it a fight, but I don't know. As you said, Rich, about halfway through this episode, I just knew where it was going, and whew.
Yeah, I don't know. So to be clear, we're going to be covering Season 3, Episode 7 of Team Ninja Warrior. We're also going to talk a little bit about USA versus World. We're not going to review the whole thing. We'll just kind of talk a little bit about what we expect to see. And we'll talk about a new show that's been announced called Battle of the Network Stars. So we'll give a little bit of info about that. And
be on the lookout, guys. That could be a show coming up this summer that could be really fun. So we all had Ultimate Beastmaster, and this is another show that hopefully could be at the same level. Ultimate Beastmaster was a very pleasant surprise. I'm hopeful about this one.
All right, so let's plow through this thing.
Don't worry, there won't be much to talk about. I mean, the story of this episode really was the rise of one very dominant team. Two teams, actually, like Towers of Power, you got to give them their props, but one big rise on a team, and just the epic, not downfall, that's too harsh of a word, but just this just complete folly of a team with the Ninja Britons that just was so shocking in many ways and heartbreaking in many ways. So this is not an episode where it's neck and neck, who's going to win, all this fun stuff. It was those two storylines just really took over the episode, man.
Yeah, it did. I don't know. I don't know how much to say about all of it. Let's go through the matchups because it was more than that to me. It really was more. That was a downer for sure, but I found the whole episode, every matchup was just depressing to watch because even on team, it really was. It was really bad. It was. I took this episode hard. I don't even know why I took it as hard as I did because even when Team Ronin was doing well, Flip himself was having a horrible episode, and watching that happen was making it just as bad as watching the Ninja Britons struggle. Rich,
I don't know, man. I feel like I need to give you a hug through Skype or something, bro. Here's air hugs from the other side of the continent.
Oh, I swear. There hasn't been an episode of this or American Ninja Warrior that's hit me as hard as this one did. It was just brutal to watch. I hated it. And it was made a little better in a way by some extra info we got at the end, which I'll talk about after. But let's get into it. Let's actually get into the runs here. So, okay, so the first matchup is Team Ronin versus the Invincibles. So Team Ronin is Flip Rodriguez, JJ Woods, and Tiana Webberly. And they're up against the Invincibles, Abel Gonzalez, Jeff Lancaster, and Jerry Dorilio. Two very strong teams. Jeff, a little lesser known name, but he's been to the Vegas finals a couple of times, a strong competitor. So it looked like it was going to be a good start. We were very excited for this episode. It looked very promising, some very strong teams.
Invincibles is a team where they don't necessarily have the namesake, but they are very, very strong competitors. And I'm glad they're on this show. They just really need a new name. So, yeah, I mean, take some notice from Team Ronin. That is a dope name, you know, guys. So stuff like that.
Yeah. So the first matchup was JJ versus Geoff. And unfortunately, Geoff fell in on the Ring of Fire on the second notch, which, whatever, it happens. It's happened a lot over the season. It's like, you know what, that can happen to anybody. Mm-hmm. I really didn't expect it to be the theme of this episode.
Yeah, like hardcore, dude. Like this episode, there was a lot going on with that Ring of Fire. I guess a lot of people were just underestimating that one.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on. Like it was, they stuffed it full of kryptonite or something. It was just awful.
Do you think maybe they filmed this? It's going on last, but that might just be because of what occurred. Do you think maybe they filmed this like as one of the first episodes, and people were just like not like viewing the Ring of Fire properly of how to do it?
I don't think so, and I say that only because of. Let's talk about it. I'm going to die if I don't say this right off the bat. So, if you haven't seen Jessica Britten do anything except this episode, you might think that she's not one of the top female ninjas. It would be it was very confusing to watch this episode because she was struggling immediately. So I want to get it out there.
I felt something was off immediately, like right off.
Yeah.
Did you get that feeling too?
100%, and it was bugging me through the whole thing.
Everything was very strange about it. Yeah.
And it turns out, thank you so much, Arsenette, for getting us this information just before we recorded. I'll link the Instagram post where she explains that she had heat stroke and really shouldn't have been on the course to begin with, but she had trained so hard and everything that she wanted to do it. And you can see it. Like, if you've seen her do courses before, she is extremely strong. And that makes perfect sense as to what happened throughout this episode. She struggled so bad, and I felt bad through the whole episode. I think that's what really hurt, is I'm like, something's wrong with her. Like, something's totally not right. Like, somebody check on her.
Yeah, immediately she was very cautious, but not in an athletic way, just cautious about everything going through. And she, technique-wise, I mean, it was all over the place. So something was really going on, and it wasn't a situation where she's a new competitor and just trying to figure out the course. I mean, something was really going wrong, and you could definitely see like her strength was very much sapped. Now, looking back at what happened and transpired with the heat stroke and everything, I mean, this is a conversation that I need to have with you, Rich. In many sports, the whole point of referees and everything like that is to protect the competitors and athletes from themselves, because a lot of athletes will continue doing things. I mean, I always bring up the story that I, not being very smart, did Tough Mudder, and I did half of it, so about 5 miles with a dislocated knee. I just popped it right back in, and that was not the smartest moment of my life. Do you think they should have let her continue doing this? Because when you look at this course, I mean, she could have seriously hurt herself.
After her first fall, I thought someone had to check her out, and I think she should have been pulled at that point, because it was painfully obvious, even as a non-athlete, that there was something up. And that she was off, right? Like, I don't think she should have had that second run. And she really could have seriously injured herself. It looks like she did injure herself, or they just termed the heat stroke an injury. But she mentions in the Instagram post that, she couldn't even get herself out of the water.
Yeah, that is not a good sign, guys. Like, that's scary. And that was like 3 obstacles in, maybe 2 obstacles in. And when you look at some of these obstacles, I mean, when you look at them, people make them look easy, but like when you just think about the dismount and you're not properly dismounting, say the Ring of Fire, and it just whips you. First of all, if she holds on, she can pull something. But if she just lets go and completely flings herself, she can spin in the air, dude, land on that pad on her neck. With a cargo net, she can just connect a limb into that cargo net and it pulls and snaps a limb. I mean, if you don't know what you're doing, if you just like lose your strength completely and you let your body whiplash on like a dismount or any parts of these obstacles, you can severely hurt yourself. And the issue with heat stroke is that you don't know when you're going to pass out. You don't know when you're going to lose all of your energy, and it just drains like that. There's a lot involved with heat stroke, and that is a very scary situation. And looking back on this episode, it did not make her look good at all. Right, Rich?
Yeah.
So I just really, really feel bad for her. I understand she really wanted to be on that course, and I feel for her. But I understand, go with the first try, see how you do. I completely understand that. But she should have been pulled from that point, and this just whole situation was very unfortunate.
Yeah, it put a damper on the episode for sure. So actually getting back to the runs we were talking about.
Sorry, just
I had to get it out there. It was killing me not to say it.
The whole situation, I mean, watching it, I felt worried for her the whole episode. I mean, that was on my mind as soon as I saw her first run. It wasn't like, oh man, Jessica's looking bad. It's like, what's wrong?
So Tiana versus Jerry was actually a really good run. Turns out Tiana actually has a good nickname. We've had so many bad nicknames from these people. I think Sweet Tea is actually a good nickname for her.
Oh yeah, it's dope. I really like that one.
It was a close matchup. Jerry was a little behind by the flywheels, but they're both struggling on the dismount. Tiana missed the wall, and then they both went up the second time. Like, it was probably the one matchup where I was excited and everything was great, and I wasn't thinking about anything else. Is like, okay, this was a great matchup. This is looking promising. This is going to be a good episode.
Yeah, it was fun. And Tiana Webberly is another competitor that is undefeated, I believe. So good on her. And she's definitely making a name for herself. Obviously, just like looking at her, she looks impressive.
Yeah.
Physically and everything. Like she looks like she can go, right? She can also back it up with the speed and athleticism, and good on her. I see her doing a lot of big things. Not to mention, I mean, look at that. We have a new was it sports model or something like that?
Yeah.
Good on her.
Yeah, she's impressive. She was so impressive with only a few months training last season. So now that she's got a full year under her belt, she's that much better.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had the next matchup. We had Flip versus Abel.
Oh boy.
And yeah, the Team Ronin's up 2-0 at this point. You're like, well, you know, Flip's solid. They should be good, but he fell on the ring of fire in the second notch. And you kind of brush that off a little bit. You're like, it can happen to anybody. I was really surprised because he looked strong up to that point. He was going at a good clip. You're like, okay, well, I guess we can go with that. I thought he would run again, though. I was really surprised when he didn't.
Well, this is the thing. I really appreciate on this show when we have team captains that check their ego and go with a safe play. And I would understand completely if Flip was like, hey, I just want to give it another try. It's still the first round and everything. That's fine. But it says a lot to me when you see the trust in their other, I guess, teammate, where they're like, hey, you did better than me. Why don't you do the final run and do the team captain run, you know, the tiebreaker. He put a lot of faith in JJ Woods, and JJ Woods delivered. So I actually really appreciate that camaraderie. I feel like some teams put too much emphasis on the name of the team captain and not enough of the team. And this is more of a case where, hey, Flip Rodriguez and JJ Woods view each other as equals, and JJ did better, so why not give him the final run? I very much appreciated that. Yeah, it was a really cool dynamic. And I you know, if you actually look at the teams that have made it to the finals, almost all the teams have used this dynamic where they put less emphasis on the team captain and more on the team in general.
Well said. So the squaring off of JJ versus Abel, JJ just blew through it. Abel got hung up in the ring of fire.
Dude, he flew. Oh my god. JJ Woods is so good. But man, he was like just somebody lit like a rocket up that guy's butt, and he just flew over the course. It was insane. I didn't get the time for him, but he must have gotten in that 30-second threshold, just like some of the elites this season, because that was so fast of a run.
So yeah, JJ was amazing, but Abel managed to catch up to him somehow on the flywheels. He just flew through the course.
Dude, that's right. Abel caught up on those flywheels were tricky for them this episode. And yeah, I totally forgot about that. JJ definitely didn't get that 30-second threshold. Good on Abel Gonzalez, still staying in it, and he used good technique. Did you see how fast he flew through those flywheels, by the way? It was got on the first flywheel, hopped immediately to the second, grabbed the third, and swung. I mean, that was amazing. Good on that guy. That is some technique for days, guys.
Yeah, that was really good. But unfortunately, it wasn't quite enough. JJ did manage to beat him to the buzzer, so it meant Team Ronan moved on as the winner, so they had the better seed for the next round. And now we get into it. We have the Ninja Britons versus the Towers of Power. That is Geoff Britten, Jessica Britten, and Mike Chick versus Brandon Mears, Selena Laniel, and Dan Palizzi. What did you think of these teams?
I thought both were very, very strong. It could have gone either way. I'm really high up on Towers of Power, especially for Team Ninja Warrior. I feel like Towers of Power is always going to be the team where they can make it to the relay, but I don't see them winning the relay all that much just because that final obstacle in the relay, I mean, they're way too heavy for that thing. But I'm really high up on any competitor that's that tall. They can do really well in Team Ninja Warrior. And these guys definitely proved it. I mean, they've got that wingspan, they got that reach, and, that speed. And Selena is so, low-key good, man. She is like a little tank of muscle. Plus, she's repping Dago, so I got to give a shout-out for her on that. Yeah, I really like that team. And they're going against the Ninja Britons, who, are low-key just like the ultimate baby faces. And, yeah, I mean, I was expecting some fireworks with this matchup. I was excited for them.
I was a little worried for a minute they were going to go hard on the whole bro dude stuff again, like they did on the...
they were getting close.
24 before. They right around the edges. It's a little much. I'm glad they toned it down a bit, but oh my God.
I don't need that ever again in my life.
So they had the women run first. They had Jessica versus Selena, and Jessica was lagging behind right away, as we talked about. She just peeled on the first ring of the Ring of Fire. I don't want to talk about it anymore. We're going to move on to Mike versus Dan. Done.
Oh, man.
It's not up for discussion. Mike versus Dan. Dan's an amazing runner on this freaking course. He's just chewing it up.
He's really good. I guess one problem that might happen from being a team or a part of a group like the Towers of Power is that the Towers of Power name overshadows their individual characters and names, right? Like, you all recognize Zampalese, but if you were to say name the two Towers of Power, I think some people might have a tough time doing that. I'm excited that definitely Dan Palizzi made a name for himself in this episode. He was really, really good.
Yeah, Mike just couldn't keep up with him. His reach and his skill, like Dan was just too good, unfortunately. And that led to Geoff versus Brandon. And we did get the height here is 6'5", as we talked about.
Yeah, Brandon Mears is tall.
He's very tall. Yeah. But they use terms like gym-intimidation and stuff, and I don't know.
That's so dude, bro. It's not a good look. Like, I don't know anybody that's gonna hear the word like Brandon Mears say gym-intimidation, and everybody's like, I like that guy. That was a cool phrase. I'm so happy he said that. Nobody's gonna.
I can tell you that the team scares me. I do have to admit that team scares me. I would not want to be facing them on a course or in an alley or anywhere. I'm talking right across the board. Selena scares me. Brandon does. Dan does. Every last one of them are intimidating people.
Selena would beat the living daylights out of me with both hands tied behind her back. Like, so yeah. I mean, They're a very intimidating team.
I feel the intimidation. Trust me, but it's.
I don't. I will hide behind this microphone.
But Brandon ended up falling off the course, like in one of the scarier moments we've seen. Like,
oh yeah,
just to add to the whole hot mess of this episode, he ends up flying off the course. I didn't know what happened to him. He ends up getting disqualified, but he seemed okay, at least physically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he fell like completely off the course. It was scary, but he was still able to catch up, even though he was disqualified. He was able to catch up and actually beat Geoff Britten up the warped wall, which was interesting.
Yeah.
Just oh man,
like salting the wound a little bit.
Everything that could go wrong did go wrong for the Britons. It could have happened to a nicer team, so it just sucks to see. But yeah, with that said, I mean, this is the point where I'm like, okay, so Geoff Britten, he's gonna have the rematch with Brandon Mears or maybe Dan Palizzi, and we'll see what happens. Like, he just got beat out a little bit, but he was able to squeak by with that win. Of course, that's the way to go, right, Rich? I mean, why wouldn't they?
Yeah, but they didn't do that. It ended up being Jessica versus Selena.
Yeah, we need to talk about that. So why?
Yeah.
Why? Like, so many things going against this. And I'm sorry, but this is a point. I understand. Husband, whatever. You really want to see Jessica Britten do well. She's been training like crazy. I understand all of that. But you know she's going into this with heat stroke. You saw how she did on the first round. There's a lot going against her right now. Why would you put her in that position? Or, like, I'm sure she was fighting to get that run.
It's not like
now it's not the time.
To be clear, I know that if she was diagnosed with heat stroke, Geoff wouldn't have agreed to even running the course first time. She would have been smart enough to not to do it as well. I think that was diagnosed later. She was like hot and I'm sure she was tired and everything and just thinking she could push through, not realizing how serious it was.
Okay, push through and everything. Who came up with the decision, even if she's just feeling 50%, to do the tiebreaker round with that?
Yeah, it is a weird, even from a competitive standpoint, it's a strange decision to make, for sure.
Like, I get it. I get it. You have that drive and you want to see her compete again on it. And, like, she didn't look good on the first round, so go again. But you have to be 100% in a round like that. And I didn't understand that. I'm so floored. This was the big head scratcher for me. This particular run that they decided to go with Jessica Britten. I'd actually far more understand if she was feeling healthy and nothing was a matter, and like if she just had like a bad first run. I would understand, but with the information we have now, it just makes this decision all the more like, what's going on? Why would you do that?
Yeah, it didn't work out for sure.
Could say that again.
Yeah, she got hung up badly on the Ring of Fire. Selena just blasted through the whole course, did really well. Got to show what she could do. Jessica unfortunately went out on the cargo net, and then we learned that was when we learned that Jessica was injured and that Sarah Showback would be stepping in.
Yeah.
Moving on. Team Ronan versus the Ninja Britons, because the Ninja Britons were therefore bumped out, or not bumped out, but they had to run again since they had lost.
Against Team Ronan, too.
Yeah.
Oh, these poor guys. I mean, that's
too much.
Rich, you knew the writing was on the wall on that one, right?
Yeah, I knew they were done. It seemed clear. JJ versus Mike. Mike ended up going out on the second notch on the Ring of Fire, so not a good day for Mike. Tiana versus Sarah. Yeah, no pressure, Sarah, stepping in as a rookie, never been on a course before, just had to face Tiana Webberly.
Oh yeah, no problem, right?
Yeah.
I have to give a shout out to Sarah. She actually did quite well for someone that's never been on this course. I mean, I seriously was actually pretty impressed with how well she did. Yeah,
she ended up going out on the cargo net, which doesn't sound all that impressive, I guess. It's like partway through the course, but at the same time,
but she wasn't
keeping
struggling.
Up. No,
she wasn't
fine.
struggling to that point. She just made a mistake. So the fact that she was actually able to keep up with Tiana Webberly to that point, good on her.
Yeah, she was solid. I think she was a good sub in for sure. But that meant that it came down to Geoff versus Flip, and I was trying to get excited for it. I was like actually trying to amp myself up a bit. I'm like, okay, I actually would have been really excited for this run. Like, okay, so like set everything else aside. You're going to see Geoff Britten versus Flip Rodriguez. This is going to be great. Let's
dream match,
let's
right?
see this. Yeah,
status.
Let's see what happens. Both out in the Ring of Fire. Like, what the heck? Like, I can't get anything right this episode.
I don't even know what to say on that one. I was like, what just happened? Now, I get it. This is a situation most likely where it's all nerves and both competitors are going so fast. Like, to Flip Rodriguez, you have the first American Ninja Warrior. To Geoff Britten, you have one of the fastest people in the entire sport. I'm sure both of them were like, oh boy, I have to go next level and just take all these risks. And I think it was a situation where they over-psyched themselves out with who they're competing against and took one, I think they overlooked the Ring of Fire a little too much or just threw themselves into it way too fast. But either way, it was very anticlimactic. I guess that's the best way to say it. And of all the people in the entire sport, Rich, if there was one person, I'd say there is zero chance their hands are going to slip off of that ring of fire. It would have been Geoff Britten.
Yeah.
Boy, was I wrong. I couldn't even believe it.
Well, here's the thing. So we have to keep in mind that Jessica's over at an ambulance at this point being checked out.
Very good point, yeah.
And both Mike and, I mean, everybody was distracted, I'm sure, but mostly Geoff and Mike would have been very distracted by that whole thing going on. So I think we have to take that into consideration, too.
Oh, yeah, very much so. His mind was definitely probably not in this run completely. And, like, right after this, you have to imagine, I think they even said, like, right after this, he ran to the ambulance with Jessica Britten and rode with her to the ER. Family first. I completely understand that. I just wish them the best. Everything I hear, Jessica was able to, recover. She came back to the course, did some of the obstacles that she wanted to do. I'm happy that she was able to get that opportunity, and I don't know. I hope we see her at least in A&W and make a comeback and show like what she actually can do to the audiences, because just today was just not a good day for them in many circumstances, and people have those. People have bad days.
Yeah. Then we had what I would consider the highlight of the episode. The one part I actually laughed out loud and enjoyed was the interview after this.
Oh, yeah. I laughed, too. I audibly laughed loudly. Yeah, why don't you go over, bro?
Yeah, she looks at Flip, and she's like, well, you know what? It's probably not how you expect to move on, but a win's a win, right? And he goes, no. No, it's not.
He was like, no. The face he had, he's like, what are you talking about? Actually, Rich, if you can pull that, it was like the audio clip. It's so good.
Flip, Team Ronan is heading to the relay showdown. Probably not the way you would imagine that run, but a win's a win, right?
No. No, I want to get over that thing.
And I really like what he said, where he's like, in the relay, I am definitely not going first, I can tell you that.
Yeah, exactly.
I laughed so hard. Good on that guy. Once again, Flip, he is not too proud of himself. Like, he knows what's up. That was funny.
Yeah, that was great. And so then we come down to the Invincibles versus Towers of Power. I think it was pretty clear how that was going to go down at that point. Jeff Lancaster versus Dan Palizzi. Dan just made it look ridiculously easy. Like he just did the course like he was, on a playground. And Jerry versus Selena. Selena, this actually wasn't too bad. So it was weird though. It just to add to the weirdness of the whole episode. Selena was a little bit ahead, but she missed the cargo, so they were tied. And then Selena gets to the floating steps first, but falls, and I don't know, just the way she fell. I guess looks like her foot hooked on the rope or something to keep her from actually falling off. Jerry comes behind her and ends up getting tripped up going past from the floating steps. Like, it was just a weird run. Like, Selena really, by all logic, should have fallen, but just managed to save it somehow.
I mean, that was pretty cool. That would have been a really cool comeback victory if maybe Jerry would have make it, and if Selena was able to get her faculties and complete the run. But yeah, I mean, it was just kind of a hot mess of a run.
Yeah,
when you just look at
more
it, just
weirdness
stumbling
and
over that
stupid victories that you don't want to see. You want to see people racing up the warped wall, and we just didn't get a lot of that this episode.
That's a good point. Yeah, this episode is just a lot of runs that ended very short from competitors that can do better.
Yeah,
that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, and so we had Abel versus Brandon to wrap it all up, and Abel goes out in the second notch in the Ring of Fire, so Brandon wins. It's just, nobody wants to win or see the wins going through this like this. It's just a mess. So the Towers of Power move on. So we have Team Ronan versus Towers of Power in the finale, and it sounds like you had every faith in Team Ronan to pull this one off.
Yeah. I did not see Brandon Mears or Dan Palizzi getting up that invisible ladder. When you're that tall, that's going to be I think a lot of people look at their arms and be like, oh yeah, they're going to have no problem because they can just get their arms really high. When you're that tall, that's a lot of weight. You're going to have a lot of weight down on you. It's built more for having arm strength for power and for short bursts. It's probably not for prolonged exposure with arm strength. So I wasn't too keen on either of them completing the invisible ladder. I'm sure they can, but definitely not at the speed that somebody like JJ Woods could, or Flip Rodriguez. The icing on the top was that JJ Woods was competing against them, and I have a lot of faith in JJ Woods when it comes to upper body. He is very low-key, very powerful, and I really like JJ Woods with his speed mixed with his upper body prowess. He's very good, and just like Flip Rodriguez, he's been part of American Ninja Warrior since day one. He also got his start, if you remember, Rich, on Jump City, Seattle. This guy definitely is game and knows his stuff.
Yeah, I definitely remember from that. So the matchups, we had Tiana versus Selena to kick it off, followed by Flip versus Dan for the middle of the course, and JJ versus Brandon to wrap it up.
How crazy is it that the one person in this entire matchup that you're worried about is Flip Rodriguez? and I say that tongue in cheek, like I'm not too worried about him, but of all the competitors, I'm like, well, the only person that's having a bad day is Flip freaking Rodriguez, you know? It's like...
Also, the other 5 are just like killing it on the course today. They are like the most solid ones out there. Yeah, and you're just hoping Flip doesn't fall, like, of all the people.
Poor Flip. Like, please, Flip, just don't mess up. I mean, what a strange episode this was.
Well, the thing is, too, with Flip gets emotional, right? Like, we've seen Flip get emotional when he slips up in the past, and I was like, I don't need to see Flip crying again. I'll start crying. I've had a bad episode already. I don't need that.
Yeah, Flip is very invested. That's a good point. Like earlier when you saw JJ Woods like win like the tiebreaker for them, you could see Flip like really taking it seriously and super excited. Flip, yeah, that's a good point. He's kind of like Joe Morosky. He's definitely a competitor.
Yeah. Tiana did amazing. She actually ended up tagging first. I was kind of wondering how that was going to go because they were both so strong this episode. But she did get a little bit ahead of her. Flip was doing fine, but Dan ended up passing him on the flywheels and tags first. I really didn't see that coming. Flip is so amazing on the wall that we've seen him do some crazy comebacks from a good distance because he can just go up and over that wall like nobody.
Yeah, but, you know, that's relative to who he's competing against. He's competing against somebody that's like 6... I forget how tall Dan Palisi is, but this guy, like, the obstacles that they were competing on are tailor-made for somebody Dan Palisi's height. So I can't really fault Flip Rodriguez too much because, like...
it's a tall order.
Not many people are going to be able to do that. I mean, Dan Palisi, with his arm reach, he can just breeze through all those obstacles.
Yeah. It was relatively close, and then they became even on the Sam ladders, JJ versus Brandon, and that was a great finish as it was going. That was really exciting to end up this hot mess of an episode. We actually had a really good final going there as they were tied up going through the Globe Graspers, heading over to the Invisible Ladder. I was pretty excited to see how it was going to work out.
Who do you think was going to make it hit the buzzer first?
I didn't know. I honestly, it was a toss-up for me. I did know that they would have trouble because of the extra weight of being that tall. But like you said, some people might think, well, I was one of them, thought their reach could, used correctly, seem to give them a huge advantage of being able to move the rungs a lot faster up, right?
Yeah.
With those
and to be
long
fair,
reach.
and to be fair, like JJ Woods is a very like buff guy as well. He's probably holding on a lot of muscle as well. So, you know, there is that.
But yeah, it wasn't really... It really wasn't a big matchup on the Invisible Ladder. JJ crushed it, and Brandon was struggling and ended up falling, unfortunately. So Team Ronin won. Yeah.
It's very... I could definitely see why this was the last episode of this... of these of all the initial matchups.
You think? I would have buried it in the middle somewhere. I don't think I would have had it to wrap up the season in that. Well, it's not the whole season.
Well,
but,
in a way, it's buried in the season, right?
Yeah, I guess somewhat. But I didn't know they were going to do this. I should have figured by the count that they would do this. But we're going to have a bonus episode in a way.
Yeah, the wild card. You didn't know they were going to have a wild card?
Well, I thought they would just pick it. They didn't compete for it last year. They just used the fastest times.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I'm actually really excited because the fact of the matter is we're going to have 4 teams that just barely didn't make it And this was kind of like a problem last season where there were some teams that were like, oh man, they got so close. This sucks. If they were just matching up against any other teams, they might have done really well. I'm very excited with this wild card idea. I'm very high up on it. And plus, we get to see some of our favorite teams that will compete again. It's really awesome.
Yeah, I think it's a good selection too. So the wild cards that'll be competing next week for the final spot are the Towers of Power, which makes sense. They did really well. Superhero Squad, that's Jamie Ron's team. The Lab Rats, that's Chris Wolczewski's team. And the Breakfast Club comes back. That was probably the one I was most excited to see.
Yeah, so previewing next episode, I mean, this is really tough, Rich. I mean, it's really hard for me to pick a team that's going to lose to the Breakfast Club in the relay next episode. That's a joke that you completely undersold, but moving on with my life.
It took me a second. I get it. Yeah, because the Breakfast Club...
It's done. It's killed.
No, I'll just edit my laughter in closer. It's fine. No one will even know the difference.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what? Oh, yeah. No, same thing. The Breakfast Club totally has this.
I was so proud of myself. Just killed it. So who do you think's gonna win, man? Obviously, I have the Breakfast Club.
If I had to pick who has a chance against them, it would be the Lab Rats.
Lab Rats. I'm really high up on Jamie Ron's team. I could definitely see them playing spoiler also. Like everybody, like these four teams, all four of them are very strong. I can't see any team like just getting blown out. So this is gonna be a fight. This is definitely gonna be a fight for all teams. I don't know. I feel like Le Breakfast Club, like there's no clear weaknesses on their teams. I think they can do really well in the relay. I'm high up on them.
One thing we haven't done with our other previews, what matchup do you want to see out of all these teams? Who do you want to see? What pairing do you want to see happen?
I really want to see Le Breakfast Club versus the Superhero Squad.
Individuals, like what person versus person? What two people do you want to see square off?
Why don't you start first, man?
Yeah, because I got mine already. Because this is what made me think of it. I'm like, oh, we could see Jesse LeBrecq versus Michelle Warnke. I want to see that.
Ooh, damn, that's a good one. That's a strong team right there. So my pick's definitely going to be John Alexis Jr. and Brandon Mears, man. The two tall guys. Now we can see what when they cancel each other out, like how good they can be. Brandon Mears is a little bit like more on the power side, the upper body strength side, but John Alexis Jr. is so fast with that track experience. So even though they're tall, they both have very different styles, and I'm excited to see them both test it out and see how well they do. That's a matchup I'm super excited about.
That'll be visually exciting, if nothing else, to see these monsters take down the course. That'd be cool.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so moving on, let's take a look at this USA versus the world. Now, I don't want to do a full preview because when you're listening to this, you've already seen it. So, but we did learn a few things about it. There's going to be 3 teams of 6 this time instead of 5 from North America, Europe, and Latin America. So Team Japan will not be back for this episode.
I'm actually really happy. Like, it sucks that we don't see a Team Asia, but I'm excited that they're diversifying quite a bit. From what we saw in Ultimate Beastmaster, there are some very, very strong obstacle course competitors from Latin America, and I'm excited that we get to see them show their talents. Also, we're going to have new names and new competitors, and just keep switching things up. It makes it a lot better. If we have the stagnation of the same teams coming up, but just with different names, it can get a little stagnant, and hopefully this gives Team Asia some time to develop some new up-and-coming stars and maybe come back maybe a year from now. I feel like if we have next year, we have Team Asia versus Latin America versus USA versus Europe, I think that will be a very, very fun dynamic. So it can complement the other teams. And I'm really high up on Team Latin America. I expect big things from them. I actually... Team Europe is always very strong, but I'm actually going to stick with Team USA. I think Team USA is going to win it.
I have no trouble picking Team Europe because it has my man Sean McCall, the Canadian Ninja Warrior. I'm giving him the official title. I don't care.
He probably would win, so he's most likely.
Yeah, if we had it, if they would let us have it. Anyway, Team USA, I do have to mention, is an absolute brutal team. Like, oh my God. Jessie Graff, which is amazing that they're going to have her on there. First female on USA versus the World, so that's good.
Very high up on that. Not just that, I mean, she can stick with everybody. Like, I actually think she's gonna do quite well. And once again, I'm excited to see her compete in different stages. Maybe we'll see her again on stage 3 or 2 or something like that. Yeah, I'm excited to see her.
Yeah, and then but you look at the rest of the team: Brian Arnold, Drew Dreschel, Daniel Gill, Josh Levin, and Jake Murray. It's like your A&W fantasy team.
Yep. As a matter of fact, let's look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4 of the members of my fantasy draft are on this team. Yep, I am very high up on this one.
Yeah, as I was looking at it, I'm like, as much as I love all these competitors, it feels like if you had to pick a team, that's exactly who you would pick.
Pretty much. Yep, pretty much. There's no weaklings on this team, dude. I'm very high up on this one. I think they're going to do quite well. Team Latin America, they're obviously, like, we don't know them yet, but I think they're going to surprise a lot of people with how well they do. I think it's not going to be a complete blowout, what we've seen like from Team Asia in previous seasons. I think this team is going to put a lot of points on the board as well.
Yeah, I feel like if they were going to pick a replacement, they were going to make sure that they could hang with the best of them. So we'll see how they do. It should be really interesting. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I'm very excited. This is going to be a very fun special, guys. It's kind of frustrating, and I see both sides of the argument, but NBC has been spoiling the living daylights out of something that goes on this episode, and I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about, but it's all over the internet, like everywhere I go. I'm trying to avoid, but there's videos upon news stories of it, and I'm just like, why? Come on, man. Now I get it. It's the same thing as Stephen Amell with this Celebrity Ninja Warrior, where you have something happen. You see the clip of it online, and then you're like, oh, I have to see this. It's coming up this weekend. This is going to be really exciting. I have to watch it. But the diehard of me is like, I really wish I would have just seen that in the moment. That would have been really cool. And I'm trying to be vague because I haven't watched the actual thing, but I definitely read it, and Rich hasn't, so I'm trying to be vague for his sake. But it's kind of a little frustrating. Stop spoiling stuff, guys.
Yes, please. I mean, it's hard enough as it is because when these things air, we always record the night after. So I have to avoid every tweet, every Facebook post, everything for a full 24 hours as it is. I don't need things a week prior to potentially spoil things. So that brings us to something that Bijan brought to my attention, and that is ABC's return of the Battle of the Network Stars. I don't know, man. Like, it's a tall order. We're already covering so much. You're actually thinking we should cover this?
Yeah, I think we should join this with our coverage of Spartan Ultimate Team Challenge, just as like a little side thing of like the side shows. But I'm cautiously optimistic about this show. I don't know a whole lot, but everything I've read, this looks to be a fun thing. It looks to be a mix between, say, American Ninja Warrior and Spartan Ultimate Team Challenge, and maybe some other shows, like maybe it's got some elements of the MTV's A Challenge in it, where it's got some reality show dynamics and some drama in it. This could be kind of fun. Like, we don't know a whole lot, but it's going to be 2 teams led by the 2 team captains, one of which is going to be I'm a super fan of hers, Ronda Rousey. I'm really excited to see her again in the limelight. I'm a big fan of Ronda Rousey. She's going to definitely be a competitor, and I've been following her career ever since the Olympics. She is a competitor, and she does not do well at losing, obviously. But that's gonna be quite fun.
Yeah, and the other team captain I'm not familiar with, Super Bowl champion DeMarcus Ware.
I'm sure he's quite a personality in his own right. He probably just doesn't have the name, but I'm sure he's going to make it really fun.
I'm sure there's a lot of football fans that heard you just say that and went, what do you mean he doesn't have a name? It's DeMarcus Ware. Like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, good point. I don't follow football enough.
Yeah. Or they're saying, it's DeMarcus Ware. Richard, what are you doing? Yeah, so we'll preview as it gets a little closer. As we get some more information on who's actually going to be competing.
Yeah, but this is going to be more closer to maybe Celebrity Ninja Warrior with the namesake, guys. There will be stars from different shows and everything from different networks. Who knows of how big, but even even if it's a recognizable like celebrity, this can be a good opportunity to bring in a lot of casual audiences to the show. Maybe it's going to have the dynamic of like Dancing with the Stars or something like that, Rich. So this show could be very big. It could just fizzle out and die immediately. But this show has the opportunity to be something that could be very fun and get a very big audience. And you know, the more the merrier when it comes to shows. So I'm excited. Obstacle course shows. So I'm excited for this. Hopefully it's good stuff.
Yeah, it was a huge hit when I was a kid, right? So that's the thing. For those of us that grew up in the 80s, this was the American Idol, The Voice, you know, that level of excitement every week. And probably even more back in those days because there was less channels to compete against. And they were bringing in... Back in the day, they used to have, you know, ABC versus NBC versus in these competitions, which would have been cool to bring back, but they're not doing it this time. So we'll get more details as we go, but they have confirmed it's going to be a mix of celebrities from a lot of different time frames and genres and things. So
that sounds kind of fun.
Yeah, it could be really cool. I think if we're going to cover it, what we'll do is keep it vague. I'm not even going to take notes so that I can intentionally keep it more vague and short.
No, I'm not killing myself like I did with Spartan last year. We're going to keep it very short and tight, guys, for both shows when we're recapping that, which will probably make it easier on you guys as well, because who knows how many of you guys are actually watching each show. I think it'll still be fun. And I don't know, Rich, are those going to be a separate podcast that we're going to do? Like, that's going to be a side podcast for us, right?
I think it'll depend on the timing of the episodes and everything. But yeah, I would say it's going to end up being a second episode each week.
Okay. So if you guys don't follow those shows, maybe you don't even have to worry about it too much.
Yeah. All right, that is it for this episode. We will be back to cover USA versus the World early next week. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can reach me at rich@ninjapodcast.com. I am at Ninja Podcast on both Instagram and Twitter. And how can they reach you, Bijan?
Hit me up at Twitter and Instagram at Bijan151. That is Bijan 151.
All right, thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a fantastic week.
Deuces, y'all.